Cooper.
Steve.
How many times has Heather been on the podcast?
This will be the third?
Third time. She does not believe us that she...
Yeah.
We didn't have cameras last time, she said. Does that...
Yeah, because she came on like way in the beginning. Yeah. This is time 3, I think.
Have I ever been in here?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would have taken pictures. So after this podcast, I'm going to have to prove to you that you've been in this room and recorded the podcast with us. The big news is that this is Heather's third time, and she is the first guest to be on 3 times in Money Donuts history. So clap, 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 clap.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
So Heather, do you want to explain to us what your role at Royal Credit Union is if they haven't listened to the past 2 episodes?
Absolutely. I am a comprehensive lending specialist here at Royal. And what that is, basically, we are an outbound call team. And we call and check in with you after you finance your vehicle through a dealership to check in, see if you have questions on your loan. Also bring in some additional business if we can beat interest rates at other financials.
Do you call all members that have gotten auto loans from other dealerships or from other financials? Or how does that work?
Typically, we do not. We reach out to the members that we could save them additional money on other loans, things like that.
Does somebody want to introduce why we brought Heather in for today's Money Donuts episode, or you want me to do it?
Well, I assume we're going to talk about loans of some sort. I think specifically refinancing auto loans and maybe some others in general.
Yeah, is this a big time for people to be financing auto loans, and why is that?
Right now, refinancing vehicle loans is huge. The reason being, the interest rates for the last 2 years have been higher than they have been historically for a very, very long time. So if you bought a car in the last few years, right now is an ideal time to look at refinancing it to both save yourself some money on interest and possibly on your monthly payments. And also new vehicle loans right now are huge. I think it has to do with the fact that everyone is a little worried as to what might happen here in the future. So lots of financing going on.
Speaking from experience, I had put in my order for my van, waited a year and a half, and then received it when rates were at the highest point. And so I had a really high interest rate, and I looked into refinancing lately, and that's kind of why I thought about this would be a good topic. So how does somebody go about refinancing an auto loan, or what kind of steps does that take?
It takes a loan application, and when I say a loan application, we would like to collect all of your personal information, making sure that we're entering in your income, looking at your credit report, making sure that you've had on-time payments in the past, that you can handle the loan, that type of situation. And then the refinancing portion of it, very easy. Very easy.
How is the process different if a member has their auto loan already with us and they're refinancing it versus if they have it at another financial and we're refinancing it?
I love that question. If it is Wisconsin titled, then it is free if you already have your loan here at Royal Credit Union. We don't charge any fees here at Royal to refinance your vehicle. However, the DMV does. So there is a $32.50 charge in order to change a lien holder. Mm-hmm. And changing the lien holder means that's who the financial is that is financing your vehicle.
What are some of the things that kind of trip people up along the process? Is there anything that people run into, hurdles when refinancing?
I don't think there's hurdles necessarily. I want to say that the biggest communication block is, how do you do it? How do I gather payoff information? I didn't know this was even an option for me. I thought once I sign these loan documents, I have to keep it for the entirety of the loan. Otherwise, I'll get penalized or whatever the case may be. Not true most of the time. And I think GAP, so guaranteed asset protection, that's another big one that members are very confused as to, does it stay with the vehicle? Does it stay with the loan? What happens? Because I already paid $900 at the dealership. Do I get that back? Where does that money go? And I love being able to educate that when you refinance the loan, the GAP does not stay with the vehicle. The warranty does, but the GAP doesn't. So when you refinance, you get to get a check for whatever you didn't use from the GAP company.
Which is really fun because I just got a new vehicle and totally forgot that I would get that. Because I got GAP on my new vehicle too. I love it. But it was really nice getting that like $500 check in the mail before a little vacation. And yeah.
And it was probably about 2.5 to 3 months after you did the whole refinance.
It was probably like a month, honestly, which was way fast. But I think in the past, it's been about 2.5 to 3 months. Yeah.
I love to tell members, you're going to get a check. It's just going to be a random check in the mail. And you're going to be like, did I win a lottery? Kind of.
Yeah. Yep. But not a scam. It's all for you.
All for you. Yep.
I didn't get GAP insurance.
Oh.
Should I be kicking myself right now?
Well, that's a great question.
Depends on a lot of things.
It sure does. It sure does.
Yeah, what? Sorry, I missed
Well, it depends.
Okay.
Like, yes, but also maybe not, depending on where you're at financially with the van.
So
Sorry, this is your episode. You can.
It's okay.
open discussion. So I'll tell you a little bit reasons why I decided not to is that we put enough down that the value is still much higher than what we owe on it. So that I don't think that will ever be, what's that, over under? Upside down thing. Over under. Upside down on it on the loan. Was that a mistake? You guys tell me now.
Typically, we look and so those who aren't familiar with what GAP insurance is, it is designed to help pay the difference between what you owe on the loan and what the insurance company pays if you were to have a total loss, so that you don't have a big loan sitting out there on a vehicle that you can't drive or don't own anymore.
So let's put that into like Midwest terms. You're driving at night, you hit a deer. Oops. Okay. Well, car doesn't.
You'd say ope.
You'd say, oh, you hit a deer. Car doesn't work anymore. Got to get rid of it. Well, at Royal Credit Union, you owe us $15,000, but the value of it is only $10,000. Well, typically, you'd be responsible for that $5,000. GAP takes care of it. Is that a good way to kind of wrap it up?
Yes.
That just feels like a very likely scenario. So that's why I always tell people, here's why you might want GAP. It works for other things too, but, deer.
Funny enough, that's usually how I say it to members too.
See, right? It's a thing. It's
your audience.
Yeah. It's like, watch for deer. It's Midwestern. I love you, Yeah. So did we decide, is Steve,
Yeah.
is he okay not having it? Or like, would you still say, I probably would. It's so cheap.
But if you put enough down, then your loan amount is already less than the value of the car, most likely, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you don't have that gap, right?
So, yeah, because the gap is what you owe on the vehicle on top of what it's valued at. So if you put down a down payment, typically that's large enough, even with depreciation, the insurance company should pay you more or what you owe on your loan throughout the whole time, the longevity of the loan.
I'd say you're probably fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say you're probably fine without looking at the numbers though, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the truth, right? You'd have to look at the numbers to really get a good idea.
And so that's something that members would decide as they're refinancing their vehicle loans. Like you could help them make that decision if they were to apply you would look at the numbers for their specific situation and talk through it, right?
I would,
Okay.
because I would say, hey, James, like your vehicle is coming out at $40,000 and we're financing 48.
Sure.
So what that would mean is if you, hit a deer,
Thank you.
then the insurance company is probably not going to pay off the loan. Do you have the $8,000 sitting in an account, or do you want this gap insurance to help pay that?
Got it.
So outside of the context of gap, are we able to refinance upside down loans? Like if somebody has their loan at another bank or financial institution and they bring it over here to refinance and it's worth less than what it would take to pay off their loan at the other financial, is that something that we could accommodate?
Typically, yes. Yeah. We don't ever want to put our members in a bad financial situation, if that makes sense. So if the loan to value is over a certain amount, typically we will say, hey, like, we'll go ahead and refinance it at this amount. Do you have this much down? So that, and the reason why we ask this is so that if you go to trade in this vehicle, you don't have $5,000 that you have to come up with at that point to pay this loan off.
Sure.
Yeah. And sometimes too, if you're refinancing that upside down vehicle, hopefully maybe you can get a lower interest rate, frees up a little bit of money there to put some extra down and, start to really cut down on that upside down or negative equity number you have.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we usually talk about with the underwriting team. If we can save it, like if it's currently at 18% and we can refinance it down to 8%, that's 10%. And if you can maintain that payment that you have been making, that much more goes to the principal, meaning that you go from a really bad negative equity position or owing more on your vehicle than what it's worth, and you level that out very quickly.
Good to know. Yeah.
So that's like the main situation where refinancing would make a huge amount of sense, right? Like come and submit a loan application to Royal, have someone look at the numbers and say, could there be a savings? Like that's kind of the scenario where a member would want to move forward with that.
That would be one scenario. Otherwise, a lot of times we run into members who were at the dealership or wherever, and they got a vehicle loan. And at the time, they thought they could maintain that payment. Well, life happens or a job change happens, whatever the case may be. And that payment that they could afford 2 years ago is now not affordable. So refinancing your vehicle can not only just save you money on interest, but it can also just save you money monthly and keep you afloat so that you can still have that vehicle to drive back and forth to work.
A lot of times you're extending that loan back out, right? Is that what you're like? You originally got maybe a 6-year loan and then you've paid for a year. Payments become too much. You're going to go back out to a 6-year loan.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, and that can be, I'm trying to think of. So when you refinance and you are trying to get that payment down a little bit, sometimes people won't do it because they see, interest rates are higher than when I got the loan, etc. But sometimes refinancing, even at a higher interest rate, you might be able to lower that payment a little bit to get you by. You have to weigh the pros and cons, which is exactly what Heather does. But just, knowing that there's lots of options out there, and it isn't always because, the rates are way lower or things, like there's lots of reasons you might look into that.
Yeah, we can also, if you have an excellent rate on your vehicle, let's say, and you have paid it down for a few years, and then you wanted to consolidate if you needed to consolidate some medical debt or credit card debt, then a lot of times there's equity in your vehicle. And what I mean by equity is if we run the value and your vehicle's worth $20,000 and you only owe $10,000, then we can take your credit cards at 28% per se and down into the 7% on your vehicle. That would actually not only help you on your monthly payment, your interest, also on your credit, because you're taking unsecured debt, making it secure, hitting that reset button.
I actually did something similar to that a few years ago. So my husband and I each had car loans. They were at different financials, and we each probably had like a few thousand left to pay on them. I think my interest rate on that one was a little over 6, and his was kind of in the same ballpark. But I refinanced. I brought my loan over here to Royal, cut my interest rate in half, and there was enough equity on my car where I could take out a loan to pay off his car loan too. So it's like, not only are we saving on interest and reducing the amount of monthly payments, we're actually getting rid of a payment altogether. So altogether, before the refinance, I was paying, I want to say like $230 per month for my car. He was paying $250 with the refinance and paying off his loan. Then we just went down to one monthly payment of $265 a month
That's amazing.
in half the interest rate. So yeah, that pulling on the equity of your vehicle during a refinance when you need it and seeing if you can use that to your advantage, definitely worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Darn it, we should have had this before I refinanced.
Right?
Yes.
Heather, do you think that people like forget that vehicles have equity? You know, we talk about it a lot with houses and mortgages and things, but I don't know. I kind of feel like people don't always think that a vehicle can be an asset like that. I think they kind of have that misconception that they're not a good loan or good debt, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I think that we all get into I don't want to have a monthly payment anymore. Yeah. I'm going to pay this off as fast as I can, and I'm going to drive around with a free and clear title.
Yeah.
We don't get a flag on our vehicle that says it's free and clear, right? And if it makes financial sense to use your vehicle to pay off other things, medical, credit card, whatever the case may be, give you some money for living expenses, you know, whatever you need, do that, because that's what it's there for.
It's helpful in the long run. It makes a big difference.
It is.
To be fair, the rust on my van is exactly that flag that says, this is free and clear.
That's called a proud moment.
Yes.
You've had it long enough to have rust.
You always hear that like vehicles depreciate and, houses appreciate. So I could totally see people thinking like, oh, yeah, this is not worth anything. But if you have that much equity or money into it already, that does make sense.
Also, if you've had a monthly payment that's at $400 and you're throwing $1,000 at it a month, that's really going to be helping out your equity.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaway from this conversation so far is just remembering that vehicle loans are flexible. That, like you said, Heather, people have a tendency to leave the dealership like, okay, I got the best rate at the time. I'm stuck with this now for 60 months or 72 months or whatever. And it's not that simple. So talk to someone and look at the numbers, examine your options, and remember that it's flexible.
So I think, James, that's a good segue. So we recently had a member that I was working with in a class, and we were able to take her car loan from 22% down to 11% interest in a shorter amount of time. But because she had been working really hard she was paying off a couple other things, she had been working on rebuilding her credit and was in a situation where, okay, now she was able to get that lower interest rate, right? So when we talk about that, I mean, that's a huge difference. Like that is a life-changing difference, right? But she was putting in the work to get to that point. Can you talk to us a little bit, like how does credit come into car loans? How can that matter? Is it worth getting the vehicle, even though you're like, okay, well, if my credit was a little better, I could get that better rate and then refinancing? But just talk to us about that a little bit.
Absolutely. So addressing the first question, going from the interest rate, the higher interest rate to the lower interest rate, what that does for you is not only saves you money monthly, but over the life of the loan, we have a loan savings calculator that we use on our team a lot. And for instance, if you have a loan that's at 10% and we can get you in at 6%, that doesn't mean anything to you if you don't know what interest rates are, right? But if I say to you, I can save you $4,000 over the life of the loan, meaning you have your loan for 60 months. If you break that $4,000 down, that's a lot of money. a lot of money that you can keep in your pocket. Also, lowering the monthly payments. I mean, if you're using $200 a month and you refinance and now your payment's only $100 a month, you can use that $100 instead of using your credit card or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
Sweating it out from paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah. And so knowing that can make a really big impact. So if is it worth looking into refinancing if I have been making some extra payments on my credit card and I'm getting that debt paid down and now my score went up a little bit? Could that be worth looking at refinancing? How does that play into it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the rates here at Royal are based off of the year of the vehicle, the term of the loan, and your credit score. So let's say that you came in right at the brink between like different tierings.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean is like you can come in at 1 point less and have a 2% higher interest rate sometimes, depending on where you're at. So knowing that your credit score has increased, that would potentially get you in at a lower interest rate, meaning that you would save that much on interest and monthly payments. So that's winning all the way around. And here at Royal, we don't charge to refinance, like I had said earlier. So we will do it as much as you need, as many times.
So I guess that was my question is we're talking a lot about the process of refinancing. Is there a negative aspect of it, or should people be refinancing all the time?
I would say there is no negative aspect of it. The only time it would impact your credit is if you're refinancing from another financial to Royal. Depending on when they report to the credit bureau, it might look for 1 month that you have 2 car loans on the same vehicle, but then the next month that one will come off and you're just basically moving the same debt from one financial to another. So it's not like you're taking on extra. It wouldn't negatively impact your credit score at all.
I think people kind of panic with that. So, I always say credit score is a little more of a game than it is a science, right? So you have that month where now it looks like you have 2 auto loans. You're like, oh my gosh, my score went down 50 points. It's cool. Like, it's okay. One, we can see that. So if something was happening that you needed a loan, we can see that on your credit report, right? But also, it's going to, within that next month or whenever they finally hit that report again, you've got that loan all situated, that credit score goes back up pretty quickly in those scenarios. So don't panic.
And that brings up another really good point that I want to bring up. A lot of members will say to me, Heather, I want to refinance, but I don't want the credit pull.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, could you share with me what it is that you're worried about? Well, I was told that the credit pull will affect my credit majorly. Mm-hmm. And as an established borrower, and what I mean by established is that you have payment history on your credit report, 18 to 24 months, you have payment history and you have established your credit. So when you get your credit pulled, it is only a few points. It comes back very quickly because your payments offset that credit pull. So I feel like that's something that society has said, it's just so scary. I don't want my credit pulled because I don't want my credit score to drop like 50 points. Mm-hmm. That's not the case. It's just not.
When we look at like the pie chart of what makes up a credit score, the giant chunk, the biggest triangle is going to be that payment history. The tiniest itsy bitsy little sliver is that new credit. So it can impact it, and people ask about that, but it'll recover. It's okay. It's not, and usually that small percent, it's not enough to most of the time be like a yes or no decision breaker between a different loan you might get. So
exactly. And if it would have brought you down from one tiering to another, wait a few months and we can re-pull the credit and refinance again.
Yeah.
So
rude.
What vehicle did you get?
What vehicle did I get? I have a Jeep Grand Cherokee now.
Jeep. Yeah. I couldn't say it. I tried. No, not going to take it.
What, do you feel the same about those as apple fritters.
No, I like.
Do you like it
Jeeps.
better than your previous vehicle?
I love it. I don't love the payment because the payment is significantly more, but it has.
Have you thought about refinancing?
I literally have the lowest rate right now for the loan term that Royal can give me. I could not refinance for a better rate right now, which was higher than what I was paying before, and my payment is higher, but it has full warranty. Like anything that goes wrong, it's covered. Gap, I've got all the things. So the dealership was really fantastic to work with, and Royal again was also really fantastic to work with. And I'm not just saying that because I work here, but they made it easy, and I feel really good in the vehicle that I'm in.
All right, maybe off the record, but did you ask for the lowest rate, or did you want to finance through Royal?
I have never been in a situation as a team member where Royal can't give me the lowest rate personally.
So a pre-approval, I always tell members when they call into Royal and they say, okay, this is the max amount that I want to spend on a vehicle. $40,000, for instance, this is the max amount that I want to spend, and they get pre-approved. I always let them know, like, if you can find a lower interest rate, do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, because financial success is one of our core values, right? And if you can get in a promotion at 0% with a GM Financial or Ford Motor Credit, do that, because that's going to be the most beneficial for you.
I tell people to do that. If it is a promotional rate for however long, then you can refinance, or, there's always the option to refinance. If, our rates went down, sweet, we can match it, bring it over. We'd love to have your loans, but I always think it's really nice to just have everything at one spot. It makes it a little easier.
Absolutely. And life is chaos enough.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about
remembering, oh my gosh, I have to go log in there and check it. I can just look at my app and see all my loans and everything. So
Agreed.
I had a positive experience being able to pay my loan from online banking to the other financial. So that was really easy, but I did always want to bring it back to Royal just because it does. I mean, it's just one less click that I have to do, one less app I have to deal with. And then the whole servicing the loan. Do you want to talk about how Royal treats the loans that we do receive?
we take care of them.
Yeah, we take care of them. We report to the credit bureau here any additional payment. So our loans are really cool in their setup. So in a $400 a month payment, you pay a daily interest charge, and then any additional above and beyond that goes right to the principal, and you don't have to specify that. And there are financials who will pay off interest first versus the principal. So that's kind of a fun fact.
Yeah. So that means if you have your loan here and you're making those extra payments, they're having a little bit bigger impact on your loans. You're paying more towards that principal
Right.
in the long run.
But you also hear the stories of like dealerships selling their or like other financials selling their loans off. So trying to contact who you actually pay becomes a little bit more of a hassle, whereas Royal services all the loans that we take in.
Yep. And then
for auto loans.
Also, you know that longevity is going to be there on your credit report. It's not an open and closed loan account and then a reopen and you're like, but I didn't purchase a new vehicle. Or, and that's what happens when you refinance essentially. But when you didn't have that choice, I feel like
it's different.
It is different.
And it's scary, right? Like with fraud and everything out there, to see that, it doesn't feel good.
Right. And when they when they sold it, did they do a risk-based pricing, or did they just put you at whatever interest rate they felt like or
exactly
is going that day, right? So,
yeah. So you get the solutions that work best for you when you have everything here and look at refinancing.
One hurdle that I did face when refinancing was like the 10-day payoff. Trying to track down that number from my other financial was kind of difficult. Meaning it wouldn't have been difficult if I was like in their online banking fully, but I was just using the app and the app didn't give me all the stuff that I need. So is there questions like that you get from members?
Our team typically will call with you on the phone as a conference call, and it's just easier because then we can gather everything that we need with the bank lingo.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
And then the member doesn't have to play telephone.
Yeah.
Okay, well, they told me this. Now I need to go tell Royal this.
Yep.
Right, exactly. Or, oh, shoot, I forgot to get the daily interest charge. Now I have to call back for 17 minutes on hold again. It's just easier for us to call with you. And I love that freedom to have 5 extra minutes to call with you and just, if you're okay with it, of course, and gather what we need. But yes, the payoff information can be very tricky.
I love that we do that because I would say a good chunk of financials absolutely would not take that extra time to say, you know what, I'll just call with you. I know the lingo. We'll get everything you need and then fully service the refinance and everything after that too. I think that's really cool. And if you don't know, I mean, gosh, we work in this field and the jargon is a lot. So when you are someone that is so outside of it, it is so nice to have that peace of mind.
Yeah, there's so much bank lingo.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to talk about how Cooper was late to our podcast because she was doing another podcast?
Yes.
I really thought I was going to get away with that.
Heather almost walked out of the room when she heard that you had done another podcast without her. And she likes animals too.
She does like animals.
Threw a mic in all of our faces.
No, we specifically talked about, I was there because I've known Heather forever, but also because I have a financial podcast that I help host with 3 other wonderful people. And
which podcast is that?
It's called Money Donuts.
Oh, you're talking about this one.
Yeah, no, you can find it at rcu.org/podcast.
I passed Steve on that one. Good job.
And on Eau Claire Hometown Radio's feed or whatever. So, yeah. So we talked about the nitty gritty of dogs and paying for a breeder versus adopting and all of that.
So a little cross promotion podcast.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it's different than what Heather usually does. So
maybe that's our assignment for the rest of you. Go do another podcast with somebody else promoting Money Donuts. Hands in. All right.
So my dog ate mouse poison on Sunday.
Oh, no.
Can we talk about this for 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have a really low emergency vet bill? Yeah.
So he was tied up, and typically we have those bait containers with the locks. Like there's no way any animal besides a mouse is able to get into these things. Well, for the winter time, in our shed down by the water, we put just the bars in there so that the mice can eat at their convenience. And my husband left the shed door open. Isn't it nice?
Sounds like a nice place. Yeah.
It's like a buffet. Yeah. My husband left the shed door open and we were putting our dogs in, and I turned my head and there's Gunner, and he's got green stuff coming out of his mouth. So I went over, we grabbed like a quarter of it out of his mouth, moved him so that he could not get back in that area. And then all I could do was think about how bad this was. So I call the vet, and I get the after hours, and they tell me that poor Gunner is not going to be okay. I need to take him in instantly. So they give you the emergency hotline or the emergency vet hotline. You call them, and on the way to them, you have to call the ASPCA poison hotline and pretty much turn yourself in for being a terrible dog parent.
Oh, wow.
It's intense.
And when I call them, I'm crying, and I let them know, like, this is not normal.
I'm not a bad mom.
I just turned my head for 1 second, and they want the actual container. So you have to read the numbers off of the container. Then you pay the money, and it's like $195 or $95 or something to just open up this claim telling them that you are a bad dog parent. And then, so then you get transferred back, and she tells me that with the amount that he ate and his weight, that she is not concerned And now we can cancel our emergency vet appointment that we're driving to currently. And it's fine. Everything is fine. And we can go home and return to business as usual.
What?
What a roller coaster. Wow.
Oh,
That was my Sunday afternoon.
Oh,
It's fantastic.
And how is Gunnar doing a couple days later?
It, like nothing ever happened.
Oh my gosh. So are you going to get your money back?
No.
oh no.
No, because you have to, that's an open case.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's your consequence for being a bad parent.
But she's not.
I know she's not, but that's not what they think.
Oh no, Heather.
And I asked the lady on the phone, I said, I can appreciate that you are all for the pets, but could you stop making me feel like I'm the worst dog parent in the world? For real.
yeah.
What kind of dog is Gunnar?
That's a great question.
Okay.
He's all the things. He's more pitty and staffy,
Okay.
but he also has boxer in him.
Okay.
So
And
he's like a
half rat,
Yeah.
half mouse.
I was thinking like, my God, if he's a Labrador, like, have they met a Labrador? They eat everything.
Gunnar eats everything too.
Yeah.
Maybe he has lab in him.
Probably. Yeah.
He's been. I mean, we've lost one child to him.
I will say Coco's pretty good too, but she was like hardcore trained into not eating random things, but
No, he's pretty good.
like they'll just eat rocks. Like labs are
Yeah. No, he's so far,
Interesting
knock
animals.
on wood, he's so far so good. He will break every leash that we've put on him. And we recently had him neutered, and he broke, I think, 3 of the cones of shame.
Oh.
Just destroyed them. Was not happy about them in like a week. And those, they don't give them away.
no.
I don't know if you
It
knew that.
turns out it does not like, oh, your dog had a procedure. Here, take this to
No.
protect them.
No.
Here's another $200.
Yes.
Literally.
Yeah. So we got a donut one for him. Here, I'll show you
Does
a
it
picture.
look like a donut? Well, I was going to bring up that you could get donut ones. Oh my. He's so cute. He should.
Aw.
Can we take a vote? I want to change our logo to that.
I do too.
He's so angry. He's like, "Why are you taking photos of me in this silly?"
Oh my gosh. Just
It's not
picture,
even like a cone. It's like a
picture
travel
his
pillow. It's
cute
perfect.
face in the middle of our logo.
That was the last one that we got for him, and then he didn't need it a day later.
Oh.
But
So
you'll
now
need it
it's-
in the
it's in
future.
good condition. Yeah.
You could just start wearing it for every podcast episode.
I thought about it today. I was like,
You can bring it on a plane and just if you need a nap.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I said you'll need it in the future. You can use it as all sorts of things. Yes.
James, you would be really proud. I went to Disneyland last week.
Oh, really?
I did.
That's awesome.
Thank you. I was in California last week for a conference, and some of my friends from other credit unions around the country went to Disney. But I did not buy ears at Disney.
That's where I thought this was going.
I thought back to our
Kudos.
podcast episode, and I just so you know, it impacted me.
How much did you save not buying the ears?
I didn't even look because
if you looked, you
if
would have
they
bought 'em.
would have been like within a range that I was like, it's not that bad, I probably would have bought them. So I just didn't even look. I did buy a t-shirt, and that was like $30. So
But the shirt you can wear forever.
yeah.
Like it would look a little odd if you were wearing
Wore
Minnie
the
Mice
ears all the- I
ears
know.
around. Yeah.
and I almost got them on Amazon, and then I said, you're not going to wear those. You don't need them for one day at Disney. So I didn't do it. And I said, James would be so proud.
There you go.
Are you
James,
proud of
this
me?
was
Yeah,
your
I'm super proud of you.
this was your time to be like, Cooper, I'm proud of you.
I'm glad that you could make that decision though, because
Thank you.
it makes a lot of sense.
I think you missed your opportunity. I would have bought 2.
Steve is lying.
After you had to pay for the one-day pass,
Oh
oof.
boy, Heather, was there anything else that we wanted to cover? Or you wanted to cover?
I think we say it a lot, but if you want to look at refinancing, it's not you asked about it, now you have to do it. But we have that loan calculator. If you call in, they'll run the numbers, they'll help you out with that. So even if you're thinking about it, don't be afraid to just ask.
Right, exactly. And just know that If we give you an idea, everything is subject to change with a credit report. So if you are looking at Credit Karma and your score, for instance, is at 800 on Credit Karma, and then we pull credit and it comes in at a 680, that's not abnormal. But we will work with you, and you don't have to take the loan that you had applied for at that point. We can just simply withdraw it and pretend it never happened too. So,
and if you are in those hard situations, even if you think, oh, I'm not going to get a lower rate or things, well, you might have that positive equity in there. It might help you with some other things you can't pay. So
lowering your monthly payment too.
Exactly.
If that's what your priority is. So.
Yep. So, and then you can refinance again once you get through that hurdle if you need to. So always call in, always ask us. It's literally what Heather's job is, to help. Ta-da!
If somebody likes Money Donuts, what should they do?
They should subscribe so that they get notified when a new episode is released.
Alexis, what else?
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
And if you have an apple fritter that you should give it to somebody you don't like. Well, thanks for joining us, and
Yay!
everybody go look into refinancing your auto loans.